So I had this really life-changing experience. I tried to get out of street fighting, by the way, by boxing, and it helped a little bit, but not enough, because I was still full of so much rage and hurt from my childhood. And I only found one way to express it, and the only way I found to express it was with fists.
Did the rage have something to do with your father not being with you?
Well, here's the thing. I had thought that the rage had to do with being a bullied boy, but, you know, writing Townie, the book you're going to read from, taught me that no, my rage was I was not seen by anybody. My parents divorced when I was a kid. They were from Louisiana, 2,000 miles away. I had no uncles, I had no cousins, I had no grandfathers. Because we moved a lot, I had no friends, so no fathers or friends. Because I was a new kid and skipped 60 days a year, I had no teachers. Because I wasn't an athlete, I had no coaches. So my brother and I fell through the cracks. We had no men. So we had nobody seeing us. Everybody needs to be seen. Everybody needs to be seen. Everybody needs to be loved and respected. And that's what I was putting into my fists. And that's why I won more fights than I should have. I'm not a big, tough guy. I was just full of hurt. And then, you know, here's the thing. I was full of hurt and I had rage about the hurt. Because really, the rage was, I'm hurting. Doesn't anyone see? And that's what I was wailing from. We forget that. So the first feeling was, I feel abandoned, alone, unloved, and it's up to me and no one else. And then I had rage about that. And that's why I kept looking for reasons to punch people in the face. So I'm on a train with my wife in Europe. We're taking an overnight trip from Holyhead, Wales to London. The night before, I had a dream that I was going to die. And it's kind of interesting because it was a black preacher in the dream telling me I'm going to die. And I woke up, and I've never had this experience. I was terrified. I knew the dream was a dream of foreboding. I knew it was predicting my near future. I knew I was going to die a violent death. My wife and I would never have kids. I would never grow old. And I was scared. I was scared. And we find ourselves on a train car, an overnight trip, and it's full of nothing but old people and little kids. The Lockerbie terrorist attack had happened. The plane was blown up over Scotland, so we had 35 schoolgirls from Germany who were on the train because their parents didn't want them on the plane, and a bunch of old people. And in the train car behind us, the last car on the train, is a guy selling drugs. So all these young guys start to make their way through the train to buy the drugs. And you know, it's just from midnight to dawn. And they're scaring the girls, most of whom were trying to sleep in the aisles of the train. And I watched 2 or 3 go through, and you know, they're swearing and they're drunk and they're in leathers and piercings and they're scary looking. And they were, you know, these girls were 11 years old. So I knew I had to get up, and I was the only young man on the train. So I knew I had to do something. And you know, you guys, when I stood up, I knew that's when I was going to die. But I had to stand up anyway. I couldn't not protect the kids. So I stand up for this one young guy. He's got piercings everywhere. He's swearing. He's a big kid. Leather, everything. Looked like he was carrying a knife. And I stopped him at the door and I said, you can't come in this train. So take your fucking head off. And he started to swear, and you know, I'm going to cut your head off. I'm going to shit down your neck. I'm going to do all this stuff. And so my whole life, you guys, I could not bear anyone thinking for a second I was a coward or I couldn't fight. And I'd be willing to kill or die for someone not to know that, which is ridiculous and insane. But because of that dream of foreboding and this, frankly, years of fighting building up, it was this moment that I knew I got to find another way to deal with this conflict. One thing I learned over the years is if I had my weight on my back foot, my hand down, I could throw a knockout punch. I could do it right from the back foot and swivel with the hip. And I had my hand down and my weight on my back foot while this guy was yelling at me. And a little part of me didn't want the old carpenter from Ireland next to me to think I was afraid of this guy. But I also knew I had to let go of that because that was just vanity. And here's what changed everything. The kid's eyes. You know, he's probably 25 years old, big beefy kid. He'd been living on the street since he was 13, by the way, with his own story to tell, which is a lot like mine. And I saw he was about 5, 6 years old, really, in the face. His eyes looked so young, and I just knew, I just sensed no one had ever looked out for him either. And so I was able to talk him into the area between the two train cars, and I thought, well, he's probably where he's going to kill me. I'm probably going to get thrown off the train, but I wasn't going to fight. And I just began to talk to him. And I began to appeal to the part of him that I thought was me too. I said, I'm going to ask you a question after he was done threatening me and spewing. And I'm willing to bet that if you were the only young guy in that train car, and all these big scary looking guys like you are coming through scaring these 35, 11-year-old schoolgirls, you'd stop them too. You fucking ain't right, I'd stop them. I won't let him do anything to those girls. I said, I'm just doing what you would do, brother. We talked for an hour. He told me all about his life, getting kicked out of his house when he was 13, living on the streets of London, Madrid, Milan. And it ended with us giving each other a hug. And then he goes into the train car that he came from, not the one that I was in with the schoolgirls. And the train car was open, and there were these two elderly ladies in a blanket. And this kid, this young guy, went around, and he was whispering to like 6 or 7 people up and down the train car. And then he sat and whispered something to the two old ladies. And one of them looks through the door at me and says, he's apologizing to everyone. He's apologizing to everyone for what he just did. And I haven't been the same since. I have not been the same since.
He hasn't been the same since.
I haven't thought about him enough. Maybe he hasn't been either. It ended with him saying, hey, look me up in Trafalgar Square, Yank, and here's what I believe. We're all brothers, we're all sisters. You don't have to go too far inside anyone to know that there is no other. We all share a common story, and I haven't been in a fight in 26 years, and it's like an alcoholic. It's one day at a time for me, because I still, as you know, once you learn, if that's how you handle conflict, that's how you think there's the only way to handle conflict. But I've been in probably 6 fight situations the last 25 years, and every time I was able just to use the language. Don't get me wrong, if someone was coming after me and my family, I would defend myself physically, but I don't go after anyone anymore. I don't look for trouble anymore. And when trouble comes, I try to get to the truth of it, which is, well, what's really bothering you, brother? And if you start to call someone brother, sometimes they don't want to hear it, but if you find a way to do it and talk to that part of him that's hurt and then is really raging about his hurt, people listen, man.
Has fatherhood changed that at all?
Fatherhood has totally changed it. I've got 2 sons and a daughter. And my sons are big, strong athletes. And they know about my fighting past, and they also know I'm ashamed of it. They know the little boy in me that was small and afraid is proud I changed my life, but then they know all the spiritual regret I have about it. And the best part of my life is, I was about to say the best part of my life is having been a father, but I feel like my life began when I became a father. I feel like my life before being a father was just a warm-up to stepping into my real life, which is being a father, because as you fathers know, there's no greater job, there's no greater joy, there's no greater fear. And being a father opened my heart up to all the love that was there. And frankly, you guys, in our culture, they make us hide this love, because then they call you a faggot or a pussy, and it drives me nuts. So my sons are very comfortable. I hug them, I kiss them on the lips, I tell them I love them, they look in my face, tell me they love me. And fatherhood has just been a deeper step into this change.